Lansko leto sem govoril z inženirjem od Dače, tistim, ki skrbi za reciklažo, in povedal mi je, da bo prihodnje leto, spravi leta 2024, na trg zapeljal novi Dacia Duster, ki bo imel 20% reciklirane plastike na zunanjih delih karoserije. Se pravi, govorimo o plastiki, ki potem na takem žgočem soncu zbledi ali pa jo na kakšnem parkirišču podrajsamo in uničimo. No, kaj so rekli o tem procentu tukaj notri v Ingolstadtu?
That is a lot.
So what is the potential?
The potential, I think in the end it could be higher.
Ampak o tej tehnični stavbi smo govorili tudi o reciklaži stekla, aluminija, jekla, pa seveda tudi o reciklaži plastike nasploh. Predlagam, da se sprehodimo notri in se o tej temi še bolj pozanimamo.
You have like the post-industrial material or the pre-consumer material, which came out of the production line, and we have the post-consumer secondary material. And this is the more important one, because this shows that you as a company are closing real loops. So you are taking care about your own products. Because you know at the beginning of the development, you will take your cars in a specific time back.
Torej, današnja zgodba ne govori samo o tem, da so v novih Audijih reciklirani materiali, ampak da so novi Audiji izdelani iz nekdanjih, odsluženih Audijev.
What do we have to do that a product in 20 or 25 years, when it reaches his end of life, can be recycled as efficient as possible? So with low energy impact, with low manual impact. So this is what we have to think like 25 or 30 years before a car is at the end of its lifetime.
S tem vprašanjem se ukvarja projekt Material Loop, v katerem Audi sodeluje skupaj s 15 partnerji. Projekt pa je najprej izmeril trenutne razmere.
When you take a look at the steel in this Material Loop project, we get around about 90% aluminium. It's more complex because you have to sort out the rod and the cast material. So you have to split them, and this process is very expensive, not easy to handle. So I think in the aluminium way we have nearly 60% we get out.
What about plastics?
And plastics, for the dismantled parts, it was 50% we can use again. And for the whole scrap, it was inside the shredder. It was, I think, around about 10%. So you see there we have to work on to also the sorting techniques are very important on this case, and the design for recycling topic, where we have to work on to design some parts in a different way, that we can bring it dismantle them easier. And also to lower the variety of the plastics.
In zdaj se že dotikamo hipotez za nadaljne korake projekta. Kam je torej treba usmeriti razvoj Audijev?
Currently, it's very complex to dismantle a car, so a lot of materials go in the shredder and in the thermal recycling as well. So the material is lost, and if we can sort it out better, maybe before or afterwards, because there are also some new sorting technologies that will help.
Prvi problem je že v tem, da niti vseh kovinskih strojev ne moremo metati v isti koš.
Normally in Germany we have also washing machines, refrigerators or furniture in this shredder process. All materials will disturb the content.
Pri drugih materialih pa se postopki še bolj zapletajo.
We have a big variety of different polymer types. So after shredding them, you can't get all the types of polymers out of this shredded car box. If we dismantle some big plastic parts, then we have a higher level of material.
Can you give me an example? What kind?
Often we have materials where it is a soft touch material. It's glued over the whole part, and if you shredder that, it won't stick together.
So you need to use less glue.
Maybe you need to use less glue, or you have to find another material combination which causes no problem in the shredder process or in the sorting process as well.
first phase of our material loop was to find out if it's technical feasible.
No, projekt v bistvu zdaj šele postaja zares zapleten, kajti zdaj se v projektu pleta denar. If you need to dismantle as much as possible before shredding, that means also much higher costs of the recycling?
That's right. That is also one point that we figured out. There's one example is the glass. You can recycle the glass perfectly.
For the windshields,
For the
right?
windshield, yes. But to reach this windows is not easy. We tried it in this project, and it was economical. It was a failure. At that we have to find some possibilities for automatization, maybe.
Just to find the new process or the new type of windshields?
Maybe also a new type of windshield. Could also be. That's also a topic in the pre-development department, to think about what kind of joining techniques can give there some positive effects.
Does this mean that the cars will also increase the price?
Hopefully not. That's also a topic we have to think about.
Problem je, ker tukaj ne iščejo samo zaslužka, ki bo pokril stroške nakupa strojev za razstavitev starih avtov pred mletjem. Projekt gleda celovito.
You can't be green if you just say, okay, let's collect some plastics out of the ocean and make a seat cover without regarding the whole footprint, if you are able to reduce the whole footprint of the product.
Sama reciklaža bo imela v prihodnosti enormen vpliv na ceno avta in celo na naše nakupne navade. How are you planning to get these cars back?
It is a very good question, because you have a very huge time gap between after cars produced till the end of life vehicle management. So first of all, it's a very traditional business to give a leasing contract for the first 3 years, and normally afterwards you are selling the car as a used car on the market. And we try to find solutions right now together with the marketing and sales department. How is it possible, or in which markets is it possible to offer used cars for leasing, for example? Because this gives us the opportunity to having the control for a longer time over the cars. So if a car maybe has a crash in that time, it's still your own car, and you don't have to buy it back, because the residual value normally is very high of a good product like Audi, you know, and it's easily higher than the material.
So to have as many leasing cars crashed?
No, we don't hope that, because our cars are getting safer and safer by each generation. So but the question is, like you asked before, how you keep the control over your products. So because you have two opportunities. If you are able to keep the control over your resources, it's easy to take it back. But it's not possible right now for such a long time. So we can try to extend the usage of one specific car to keep the control over the car. But then after a specific time, the value decreases. And then we can think about maybe there's a break-even where, you know, the residual value of a car is lower than the material aspects, especially if we are looking to BEV cars. You have very expensive or high-cost resources from the battery. And this break-even point is very difficult to define. But if you are finding this point, then you can make some efforts to buy the old cars back when they are aging on a natural way.
Večkrat slišimo, da si banke v lasti avtomobilskih znamk želijo, da bi avtomobile na leasing oddajale kar se da dolgo, se pravi, da bi z istim avtom služile kar najdlje. Zato se tudi kakovost novih avtov izboljšuje in življenjska doba podaljšuje. Ampak, kot kažejo prvi izvlečki, bo število let, ki naj bi avto zdržal na cesti, odvisno tudi od vrednosti materiala. Torej, stari odsluženi Audi se morda ne bodo prodajali več za dele, ampak za material. Še posebej bo to veljalo za električne avtomobile. Tudi za novi Audi Q6?
No, we didn't reach the Q6. I'm sorry for that, but the next project we have it on the list, these topics.
No, Pa vseeno naj vas zdaj pred ekranom ohrani prav Q6. Ne samo zato, ker je svež, ampak ker so reciklirani materiali v tem novincu izredno pomembna prednost. Preverite z vašim naslednjim klikom.